Most men don't wake up one day and think something is wrong. What usually happens is quieter than that. You notice small changes, less energy than you used to have, a longer time to feel fully engaged, a sense that your body doesn't respond with the same confidence it once did. Nothing dramatic, nothing you'd rush to talk about, just subtle signals that are easy to ignore, especially when life is busy and responsibilities come first. And for men over 40, this experience is far more common than most people admit. What's interesting is that many men assume these changes are simply part of getting older, something you accept and move on from. But the truth is more nuanced. Age does bring changes, yes, but it also brings a shift in how the body responds to support, habits, and daily choices. And this is where most men are missing something important. Not because they aren't trying, not because they don't care, but because no one ever explained how male vitality actually works after 40. For decades, the message has been simple: push harder, ignore discomfort, power through. That mindset may work in your 20s and 30s, but after 40, the body plays by different rules. Circulation, hormone signaling, stress response, and recovery all change gradually. When those systems aren't supported properly, the body doesn't fail. It adapts, quietly. One of the biggest misunderstandings is believing that vitality is about intensity. More effort, more stimulation, more pressure. In reality, after 40, the body responds better to consistency, balance, and internal support rather than force. This is something many men don't learn until much later, if they learn it at all. Another factor that often goes unnoticed is stress. Chronic stress doesn't just affect the mind, it directly influences blood flow, nerve response, and overall physical awareness. When stress hormones stay elevated, the body prioritizes survival over restoration. That means systems related to pleasure, relaxation, and confidence often take a back seat. Add to that poor sleep, inconsistent nutrition, and long periods of sitting, and you begin to see why so many men feel off without being able to explain why. What's important to understand is that these changes aren't a sign that something is broken. They're signals. Signals that the body now needs a different kind of attention than it did before. Men over 40 often benefit from focusing on foundational support, things that help the body work with itself instead of against itself. Supporting circulation, managing stress response, and providing nutrients that the body becomes less efficient at producing on its own over time can make a noticeable difference in how you feel day to day. This is where awareness matters more than quick fixes. Many men go years without realizing that small, consistent choices can influence how their body responds, not just in terms of energy, but in overall confidence and well-being. When the body feels supported, the mind follows. You feel more present, more grounded, more comfortable in your own skin. That sense of confidence doesn't come from forcing outcomes. It comes from alignment, when your habits, your body, and your nervous system are working together. Some men start paying attention to this after a conversation with a doctor. Others after noticing they don't recover the same way they used to. And some simply reach a point where they decide they want to feel more connected to themselves again, without pressure or unrealistic expectations. This is also why education matters. When you understand what's happening inside your body, you stop blaming yourself. You stop comparing yourself to who you were 20 years ago, and you start making choices based on who you are now. There are supportive tools available today that didn't exist years ago, options designed to work with the body gently and naturally, rather than pushing it in unnatural ways. Some men choose to explore nutritional support that aligns with these changes, especially products formulated specifically for male vitality after 40. If you're curious about options like that, one example some men look into is a supplement called Ereforce. It's designed to support circulation and overall male performance in a way that fits naturally into a daily routine. not as a promise, not as a shortcut, simply as something to learn about and decide for yourself. The key is curiosity, not pressure. When you approach your health with patience and understanding, you create space for improvement without stress, and that mindset alone can change how your body responds. Many men are surprised to learn that what works best after 40 isn't doing more, it's doing things differently, listening more closely, supporting the body instead of fighting it, and giving yourself permission to evolve rather than judge. That awareness is what most men never get, and once you have it, everything starts to feel more manageable. There's a moment many men experience after 40 that's hard to describe unless you've lived it. It's not fear, it's not panic. It's more like a quiet question that shows up in the background of your mind. Is this just how it's going to be from now on? You still feel capable. You still function, but something feels muted, less sharp, less responsive. And because there's no obvious problem to point to, most men simply adapt and move on. They don't complain. They don't ask questions. They assume everyone else feels the same way. What most men don't realize is that this phase isn't about loss. It's about transition. After 40, the body doesn't suddenly stop working. It becomes more sensitive to how it's treated. Systems that once ran automatically now depend more on support. Circulation becomes more responsive to lifestyle. Hormonal signaling becomes more affected by sleep and stress. Recovery depends more on consistency than intensity. Yet many men keep using the same strategies they used decades earlier. They push harder. They ignore subtle signals. They rely on willpower alone. And when results don't match effort, frustration sets in. One of the least discussed factors in male vitality is circulation. Not in a dramatic or medical sense, but in the everyday way blood flow responds to relaxation, movement, and internal balance. Good circulation supports physical awareness, responsiveness, and endurance. When circulation is compromised by stress, inactivity, or poor recovery, the body feels slower to respond. Another overlooked element is the nervous system. The body doesn't operate on demand alone. It responds to perceived safety. When the nervous system is constantly stimulated by stress, screens, deadlines, and pressure, it stays in a guarded state. In that state, the body prioritizes alertness over relaxation. This is why many men notice they feel more connected and responsive during vacations or moments of calm. It's not coincidence. It's physiology. Understanding this can be a relief. It shifts the narrative from "something is wrong with me" to "my body needs a different environment to function well." That shift matters, because once you stop blaming yourself, you start making better decisions. Decisions rooted in support instead of force. Men who feel their best after 40 often share one thing in common. They simplify. They focus on sleep quality. They pay attention to how stress shows up in their body. They support their system nutritionally instead of relying on extremes. And they stay consistent, not obsessive. Consistency is powerful because the body responds to patterns. Small daily actions compound over time. A calmer nervous system supports better circulation. Better circulation supports physical responsiveness. And when the body feels supported, confidence naturally follows. This doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. And awareness is what most men were never taught. Instead, many grew up with the idea that asking questions about their body meant weakness, that slowing down meant giving up, that needing support meant failure. Those beliefs linger quietly, shaping decisions without being noticed. But the truth is, adapting is not giving up. It's intelligence. Modern understanding of male health recognizes that after 40, the goal isn't to chase intensity. It's to maintain balance, to protect what works, to support what needs help, and to avoid unnecessary strain. That's why some men explore supportive options designed specifically for this stage of life. not because they expect instant changes, but because they understand the value of alignment. Nutritional support, when chosen carefully, can complement healthy habits by providing elements the body becomes less efficient at managing on its own over time. If you're someone who prefers to research before deciding, you might come across products like Ereforce. It's often mentioned by men who are looking to support circulation and overall male vitality as part of a broader routine, not as a replacement for healthy habits, but as something that fits into them. The important part isn't the product itself, it's the mindset behind exploring it, curiosity instead of urgency, education instead of pressure, support instead of force. When you approach your health from that place, the body responds differently. You notice subtle improvements, better awareness, a calmer sense of confidence, not because you're chasing outcomes, but because you're creating conditions for your body to function well. And that's what most men over 40 don't realize. Feeling better isn't about reclaiming the past. It's about understanding the present. Your body isn't asking to be pushed harder. It's asking to be supported more intelligently. Once that clicks, everything starts to make more sense. Most men spend years trying to solve the wrong problem. They focus on surface-level fixes. They look for quick changes. They assume that if something feels different, the solution must be immediate or dramatic. But after 40, the body rarely responds to extremes. It responds to signals. And most of those signals come from habits so ordinary that they're easy to overlook. One of the biggest misconceptions is that male vitality is driven by motivation alone, that if you want it badly enough, the body will follow. In reality, the body listens less to desire and more to environment. How rested you are, how tense you are, how supported your internal systems feel on a daily basis. This is why two men of the same age can feel completely different. One feels steady, confident, and present. The other feels drained, distracted, and disconnected. The difference often isn't genetics. It's how their bodies are being supported over time. As men move through their 40s and beyond, certain processes naturally slow down. Blood vessels become less elastic. Recovery takes longer. The nervous system becomes more reactive to stress. None of this is a flaw. It's simply how the body adapts with age. The problem is that many men never adjust their approach. They continue living as if their body still bounces back instantly. They sacrifice sleep. They carry stress without release. They eat for convenience instead of nourishment. And then they're surprised when their body stops responding the way it used to. What often goes unnoticed is how cumulative this effect is. One late night doesn't matter. One stressful week doesn't matter. But years of pushing without supporting add up quietly. That's why awareness becomes so powerful at this stage of life. When men begin to notice how their daily rhythm affects how they feel, things start to shift. They realize that feeling better isn't about doing more. It's about removing friction, creating conditions where the body doesn't have to fight just to function. Circulation, for example, thrives when the body is relaxed and well supported. It's influenced by hydration, movement, and the absence of chronic tension. Even mental stress plays a role. When the mind is constantly racing, the body stays braced, and a braced body doesn't flow easily. This is also where consistency matters more than intensity. Small supportive actions, repeated daily, signal safety to the nervous system. Over time, that safety allows the body to respond more naturally. Another area many men underestimate is nutritional support. As the body ages, it becomes less efficient at absorbing and utilizing certain nutrients. What worked at 30 may no longer be enough at 45 or 55. This doesn't mean something is wrong. It means the system needs more targeted input. Some men adjust their diet, others simplify their routines, and some choose to explore supplements designed specifically with male health in mind, not as a solution on their own, but as part of a broader foundation. This is where options like Ereforce come into the conversation for some men. It's often explored by those who want to support circulation and overall vitality in a way that aligns with their daily habits. The appeal isn't about promises or instant changes. It's about compatibility, something that fits into a lifestyle without creating pressure. What matters most is intention. When the goal shifts from fixing a problem to supporting the system, the entire experience feels different. There's less frustration, less comparison, more patience. Men who approach this stage with curiosity instead of judgment often notice subtle but meaningful changes, better awareness of their body, more confidence in how they feel day to day, a sense of steadiness that doesn't depend on forcing outcomes. It's also worth acknowledging the emotional side of this transition. Many men were never encouraged to check in with themselves. They were taught to endure, not reflect. So when change shows up, it can feel unsettling. Not because it's bad, but because it's unfamiliar. Giving yourself permission to adapt is one of the most underrated forms of strength. Adaptation doesn't mean lowering standards. It means choosing strategies that actually work now. It means respecting your body's signals instead of ignoring them. And it means understanding that long-term confidence comes from alignment, not resistance. This perspective alone can reduce stress. And when stress decreases, the body responds. Circulation improves. Awareness sharpens. Energy feels more accessible. Not because you chased it, but because you stopped blocking it. Most men over 40 don't realize that feeling better often starts with understanding, not action. Once you understand what your body needs at this stage, the choices become clearer, simpler, more sustainable, and that's the real shift, moving from effort to intelligence. If you're exploring ways to support yourself more intentionally, take your time, learn, observe. See what aligns with your values and your routine. Whether that includes lifestyle adjustments, nutritional support, or simply better rest, the goal is the same, creating conditions where your body can work with you, not against you. When that happens, confidence doesn't need to be forced. It returns naturally. There's a quiet confidence that comes from understanding your body instead of fighting it. Most men don't experience that until later in life. Not because they couldn't, but because no one ever framed health as something to cooperate with rather than control. For years, the dominant message has been about pushing limits. More discipline, more effort, more resistance. And while that approach can build results in certain areas, it often creates blind spots, especially after 40, when the body becomes less forgiving of constant strain. What many men start to notice at this stage isn't a lack of capability, but a lack of consistency in how they feel. One day feels solid, the next feels off. Energy fluctuates, focus comes and goes, confidence feels conditional. These ups and downs aren't random, they're feedback. The body is always communicating, but most men were never taught how to listen. One of the most overlooked aspects of male well-being is recovery. Not just physical recovery, but nervous system recovery. The ability to shift out of on mode and into a state where the body can restore itself. Without that shift, even healthy habits lose their effectiveness. Sleep is a major factor here. Quality sleep supports hormone signaling, circulation, and mental clarity. Yet many men treat sleep as negotiable, something to sacrifice in exchange for productivity. Over time, that trade-off catches up. The body becomes less responsive, not because it's weak, but because it's under-resourced. Movement is another piece that often gets misunderstood. After 40, movement isn't about intensity for its own sake. It's about circulation, mobility, and signaling safety to the body. Gentle, regular movement often does more for long-term vitality than sporadic bursts of extreme effort. When these foundational elements are supported, everything else feels easier. The body responds more predictably. Awareness improves, and confidence feels less fragile. This is also why mindset matters more than most people realize. When men approach their health with pressure, the body interprets that as stress. When they approach it with curiosity, the body relaxes. That relaxation isn't mental fluff. It has real physiological effects. A relaxed system allows blood flow to move more freely. It allows nerve signals to transmit more clearly. It allows the body to respond instead of resist. And those internal shifts influence how a man experiences himself, both physically and emotionally. At this point, many men begin reassessing what support actually means. They realize that support doesn't replace effort. It enhances it. It fills gaps created by age, stress, and modern lifestyles. That's where structured routines come in. Simple habits done consistently often outperform complex plans that are hard to maintain. Eating with intention, moving regularly, managing stress instead of ignoring it. And for some men, adding targeted nutritional support that aligns with these goals. This is why supplements designed with male vitality in mind attract interest. Not because they promise change, but because they offer support in areas the body naturally becomes less efficient at handling alone. When chosen carefully, they can complement a lifestyle that already values balance. Ereforce is one example that some men choose to learn about when exploring this space. It's typically approached as part of a broader routine rather than a standalone answer. For men who value understanding before deciding, simply reading about how it's intended to work can be a useful step. What matters most is alignment. Support that fits your life tends to be used consistently, and consistency is what the body responds to over time. As men continue through their 40s and beyond, many discover that confidence feels different than it did before. It's less about intensity and more about steadiness, less about proving something and more about feeling grounded. That kind of confidence doesn't fade with age. It deepens. It comes from knowing your limits and respecting them, from choosing habits that work with your body instead of against it, and from understanding that adaptation isn't a loss, it's an upgrade. Most men never hear that message. They assume change means decline, but in reality, change simply means the rules have shifted. When you learn the new rules, the game becomes much easier to play. And once you stop chasing how things used to feel and start supporting how your body works now, you create space for a different kind of strength, one built on awareness, patience, and intelligent support. That's the part most men over 40 don't know, and it's the part that changes everything. There's a moment that happens quietly, usually when a man finally stops trying to fix himself and starts paying attention instead. It doesn't come with fireworks or sudden change. It comes with clarity. Clarity about what actually matters now. After 40, many men realize that chasing quick answers only creates more tension. The constant searching, comparing, and second-guessing keeps the nervous system on edge, and an edge is not where the body functions best. Calm is. Consistency is. Understanding is. This is why the most meaningful improvements tend to come when expectations soften, when the goal shifts from controlling outcomes to supporting processes, from demanding performance to creating conditions. The body is remarkably responsive when it feels supported. It doesn't need pressure to work well. It needs signals of safety, balance, and rhythm. When those signals are present, things begin to align naturally. One of the simplest yet most powerful changes men make at this stage is slowing down their internal dialogue, releasing the belief that something must be wrong if everything isn't the same as it was years ago. Aging isn't a problem to solve. It's a phase to understand. That understanding removes a surprising amount of stress. And when stress decreases, many systems improve together. Sleep feels deeper. Focus steadies. The body feels more responsive, not because it's being pushed, but because it's no longer bracing. Men who thrive after 40 often describe feeling more in tune with themselves than ever before. They know when to rest and when to move. They recognize early signs of tension instead of ignoring them. They support their body proactively rather than reactively. This kind of awareness doesn't come from discipline alone. It comes from education and curiosity, from learning how different systems in the body interact, circulation, recovery, nutrition, and mental state, and how small choices influence the whole. That's why sustainable routines matter more than dramatic changes. Simple habits done daily create a baseline the body can trust, a consistent sleep schedule, regular movement, balanced nutrition, moments of genuine rest. These aren't glamorous, but they're effective. Some men also choose to complement these habits with targeted nutritional support, not to override their body, but to assist it. Especially when life demands are high and recovery time is limited, additional support can help maintain balance. When men explore options in this space, they often look for things that feel aligned rather than aggressive, products that are designed to work with the body's natural rhythms instead of forcing a response. This is where something like Ereforce may come up during research. It's typically considered by men who want to support circulation and overall vitality as part of a thoughtful routine. The key is that it's a choice, not a requirement. The most effective approach is always the one you can maintain without stress. Anything that adds pressure tends to backfire. Anything that integrates smoothly into daily life tends to last. As men settle into this mindset, confidence begins to feel different. Less reactive, less dependent on outcomes, more rooted in self-trust. That trust comes from knowing you're paying attention and making informed decisions. It's also where comparison loses its grip. You stop measuring yourself against younger versions of you or against others. You measure progress by how you feel, how present you are, and how well your routine supports your life. This is a quieter kind of confidence, but it's stronger, and it's available to far more men than most realize. The reason so many men never experience it is simple. They were never shown a different way. They were taught to endure, not to adjust, to push, not to listen, to solve, not to support. Once you see the difference, it's hard to unsee it. From that point on, every decision becomes easier. You choose what reduces friction. You keep what adds stability. You let go of what creates unnecessary strain. Over time, the body responds by doing what it's designed to do, adapt in your favor. This isn't about reclaiming youth. It's about refining strength. Strength that's sustainable. Strength that respects your body instead of competing with it. If you're at a stage where you're reevaluating how you support yourself, take it one step at a time. Learn, observe, make adjustments that feel natural. And if you're curious about supportive options like Ereforce, explore them calmly, without expectation, simply as part of your education. The most important thing is that you stay engaged with your own well-being, because when you do, confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes something you live with. And that's what most men over 40 never realize works until they experience it for themselves.